you just let me do my little intro.
Yeah, you do the thing first. Go ahead.
All right, on February 21st, 2026, Governor Kathy Hochul declared a weather emergency for New York County, which Community Board 4 is located in. The Board 4 hereby declares pursuant to Section 103A3 of the New York State Public Officers Law that circumstances necessitating the governor's declaration of emergency allows MCB4 to conduct its meeting remotely pursuant to the resolution and procedures it has been adopted under the authority granted by the New York State Public Officers Law to govern remote participation in meetings. I hand it over to Leslie.
Thank you, Jesse. And good evening and welcome everyone to the February 2026 Executive Committee meeting of Manhattan Community Board 4. My name is Leslie Bogosian-Murphy. I'm pleased to call this meeting to order. Excuse committee members and members of the public will still be able to participate virtually, which we are fully virtual. Board members who are joining via Zoom, which we all are, must leave their cameras on. We encourage members of the public to join us tonight. And while this meeting is being streamed live on our YouTube channel and a transcript is being recorded, the meeting will be live on our YouTube channel later on, or I should say taped live, and is accessible by the public. So I just want to, if I seemed rushed tonight, it's not that I'm rushed, but we have probably one of the heaviest exec agendas that I have seen in a very long time. And to add to that, we have 2 letters that have to get out tonight by midnight that are, deadline tonight. So we're going to try and get through this as quickly as possible so Jesse can then put the finishing touches on these letters and get them out ASAP. So if everyone could just keep that in mind tonight, that would be wonderful. So I am going to get right into it with that in mind. And our first presentation is from Clinton Hell's Kitchen Land Use. I'm guessing, Paul, is it you and Rachel for the Dewitt Clinton North U.L.U.R.P?
Right, so you want it or you want me to do it?
Absolutely all yours.
All right, so as everybody knows, we had a U.L.U.R.P application come in after our December meeting, so we're on a shorter, tighter timetable. We've sent out our draft EIS commentary, but this is the U.L.U.R.P commentary letter that has been circulated and reviewed and edited and changed over many, many times. We have, at the last board meeting, the full board recommended we change the committee's recommendation from approve with conditions to deny unless conditions are met. We subsequently met with the development team and they were more than perturbed at that transition. So we tried to continue our negotiations with them, but they really didn't move the ball any farther along. There were a couple of minor tweaks, but nothing of any great substance that would have convinced us to change back to approve with conditions. Because we told them we would not be able to move it back to approve with conditions, they have subsequently revised their commitment letter to us to we will endeavor to versus we commit to. So we are back in a position where a lot of our negotiations, they're still on paper and we're still making progress, but the language has shifted quite significantly. So we're going to have to be working with the borough president's office and then with the city council member's office to get more of these concessions we're looking for. Because of the crunch of time, I would probably defer to questions rather than continuing to go through each of the items. This has been on our agenda for quite some time. So if people want me to say more, I'll say more, but if you want to ask questions, I can answer questions. Kevin.
Paul, thanks for the letter. Much appreciated. Just a couple of quick questions to the degree that you're comfortable answering them. I know there was an update dropped in the Dropbox 6 hours ago, but of the open items, 3 things in particular, the family housing units, 2 to 3 bedrooms, the percentage of affordable housing, 25% residential versus 30% overall, and the money for Dewitt Clinton. Could you be kind enough to say where we are as of today? And thank you.
Where we stand now is where we stood before. They are on the percentage of affordability, they're staying at 25% overall. using the MIH formula and not expanding beyond that. In terms of the family units, they are at 15% of the units being family sized, which we've been pushing for 20%. And that is something that we're continuing to push for. Dewitt Clinton Park, they basically said to us, we're going to negotiate with Gail on that. And that's really where we stand. Joe?
Yeah, I just want to note that we had a very good meeting with them last Monday, and they agreed to a number of things, not enough to sway us back to approve the conditions. And the letter that we received today is backtracking on those things. So Paul asked me to put together a couple of lines for the last paragraph that just chronicles that, because it's disappointing that they would backtrack, but we know we're going to work with the BP and the council member on bringing these things to resolution. So it was a very, very odd sort of negotiation so far. One step ahead, two steps back, and then we're back to where we started, where the commitments are not hard anymore, but they're just soft, even though the first letter had hard.
And just to remind, there's a borough board every month where all the CB chairs in Manhattan get together with the borough president, and we just had it last week. And I asked for two things because now we have to have very short reports, but this was one of them that we know it's going to come before Brad soon as the clock ticks. And I kind of reiterated what was in the letter, and hopefully he can help us with that as well.
And Leslie, we'll need to schedule, and Joe and Rachel, schedule meetings with Brad specifically to go through all the details on this. I will just, because Joe just emailed it over, the quick amendment to the letter that Joe is suggesting, which I'm perfectly happy to accept, is just at the second to last paragraph under the conclusion, we had mentioned that we appreciate the applicant's commitments made to date. But now we're inserting some language that, however, the applicant, after further detailed discussion with board leadership on February 19th, sent a letter revising his clear commitments to will consider further, and their response backtracks on progress already made. However, we will work diligently with both the Manhattan Borough President and the council member to bring these matters to resolution. So that's some amended language in the letter that we're looking to vote out tonight. Kevin?
I make a motion to adopt the letter as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Abstentions? Present not eligible? Thank you, guys. Great.
Can I just confirm, as I saw it, that's a unanimous, right? No one else said everybody was in favor? I'm going to send a different vote? Okay.
I believe that's correct.
Got it. Thank you.
And Jesse, feel free to call me after if you have any questions or need help with the Word document.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul and Rachel. The second letter on the agenda is also.
Before we move on,
sorry.
I really want to thank Maya from CHDC. Her work on these letters has been just off the world good. So just want everybody to recognize Maya when they see her and thank her in person. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, guys. Our second item on the agenda is also a letter that's going out tonight, Jesse. Sorry, Jesse. Because the deadline is at midnight, or 11:59, I guess, to be exact. I guess this is, Greg, is this you for CLU?
Yep, this is Greg at CLU. And I'm gonna, and Josephine, I'm gonna tee this up, and then I'd love for you to jump in if that's okay. Josephine took a direct hand in shepherding this particular letter in partnership with Carrie Keenan. This is a follow-up to our meeting at CLU. So a couple things here. A brownfield cleanup application from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has been put forward. The public deadline for commentary, the two sites, right? It's 19th and 26th. So this is related to the Fulton Elliott Chelsea campuses. There was an extension to one deadline that the public could comment on to today. That is for the 19th Street location. We need to respond, obviously, if we're going to comment, because today at 11:59 is the deadline. We were notified that an extension has been provided. By the way, that was an extended deadline, and now we've asked for additional time. They have not granted that. 26th Street has another month to play with, but our comment and our response to the brownfield application work plan would need to be submitted today to make the deadline. Now, on that note, Josephine, do you want to say a few words about how it is that this came to be at our meeting? I think it'd be great if you teed it up.
Okay, so about over the holiday, we had gotten about 500 pages worth of information on contaminated soil at both locations, which required this brownfield cleanup. We don't know a whole lot about this. We're actually going to have DEC come in, I believe, sometime this week to tell us more about what this actually means. But apparently the developer and their engineer have come up with a draft plan, a work plan on how they're going to remediate the soil. And that's the first part of the application. They have to put in this draft plan. Once the plan is accepted, then they move forward with the final plan. And we have not heard from the developers. We reached out to them and asked them to come and give us a presentation. They said they would not meet with us, but they would take questions from us. But that's not really going to work because we have members of this community who want to be able to also ask questions and respond. It's not a way to really communicate. So we are asking for more time, not just to comment, but also time for the developers to come in and the engineer to meet with us. We're also asking that a working group is set up, and this is just common standard practice. Other boards have done this with other Brownsfield cleanups. So that's basically pretty much what the letter is asking for.
Yep. It
Are there any questions?
Yeah,
Oh,
let me just jump in there to say, so specifically the desire to extend the public review comment period is one of the asks. The requirement for Essence, Related, and Langen to take questions and comments from the public. And as Josephine noted, a working group is essential. I see Paul. Thank you
And I
so
just
much.
want to, if I can jump in, just to remind everyone, I think there's an element of PS 33, which is a elementary school, is right there. So I think that is an added layer, and also another added layer of population, the parent population and family population that this is of great interest to as well.
Paul's got his hand up.
Yeah, just in terms of the letter, editing wise, Langen, who is that, and could that be better defined?
They're the environmental engineer.
Right,
for-
but but just I
We
would
should
insert,
identify them, right.
just that should be
Well,
identified.
We can edit that in part 2.
Yeah.
That's easy to do.
Yeah, because it just says Langen, and if people don't know who that is,
Right.
I would just.
I
add
bet
that.
they know who they are.
I bet they know who they are.
I know, I'm just kidding. I will do this during the meeting, by the way, so that Jesse can submit in a timely fashion.
Yeah, but otherwise, great. Thank you so much.
And instead of, just for time reasons, and I won't put this in the chair report, I'll kind of condense it as we go along. Josephine or Greg was mentioning that the DEC is going to give us a briefing. We don't think, and Jesse, Bodine, you can jump in. We don't think it's going to be necessarily specific to this site. It's going to be more general of what it is. So that's going to kind of, not be a big help when we want to use the public comment period on specifically this site. So hopefully we can use the briefing to maybe push them one step forward of having something more public and more specific. But Jesse, go ahead, I think.
No, that's true. I'm just, DEC, just be clear, DEC is the overseeing agency, right?
New York State,
they're not-
DEC.
New York
Yeah,
State.
yeah, state. So they're not the applicant, right? So they're the ones that, require all the documentation, require the application, they do review it, they keep hold of it. So Langham, as mentioned by Paul, is really the developers, consultant and engineers who are producing this material and then sending it out and sending us the notices and things like that. I still think it's an effective. I think it'd be helpful for the brief to have the briefing and to meet with them. They have been, DEC has been very responsive. They gave us the first extension, and so I think it's good.
I think it's good because DEC can explain how the whole brownfield process, the cleanup process works every step of the way, because there's multiple steps and multiple comment periods. And the more we understand it, more informed we are on how to respond.
That's a very important point. I was going to jump in and say the same thing. We know what a brownfield is. We know there are a lot of brownfields in our neighborhood. There have to be, but we have not had much experience in dealing with them, and some have been constructed over while we have been quietly looking on. So the more we know about it, I think I'm looking forward to the DEC briefing.
And now, Jesse, what is the new date we have? I think they extended to March 29th. They extended about 40 days for
Yeah,
the
they
new
did that
deadline. I
last
know this
month.
letter is asking for more, but if we can work
Yeah.
within that
Yeah,
time.
it's March 29th
March
Okay.
29th.
But that's just for West 26th
for
Street. That is
26th
not
Street.
for,
Correct.
that is not
That's
for
right.
Fulton. Fulton, the
Right.
deadline is today.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Right, that's the letter that we're talking about now.
Right.
Yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second,
All in favor? Any opposed? Present not eligible, abstentions? Great. There you go, Jesse.
Well, no, don't jinx us. Come on.
No, I'm saying the two letters. Those are the two letters for tonight.
Jesse,
We've got
go
a whole
off
nother
camera
agenda.
now.
We can always find more
Yeah.
things to talk about. Not till I hear adjournment.
Agenda item number 3. This is both Clinton Hell's Kitchen land use and CLU. And this is the letter to the mayor on landmarks preservation commission chair and the commissioner appointments. Who is taking this one?
Paul, do you want to start this one out?
Sure.
Thank you.
So this letter originated in Chelsea Land Use on a discussion about appointments from the new mayor for the Landmark Preservation Act, the commissioners, and specifically the chair. From CLU, there was not quorum nor unanimity at that meeting, so it was brought to executive committee last month. Last month's discussion was to put it back out to land use committees and have us discuss it. It went through Hell's Kitchen land use and Chelsea land use. And the draft that you've seen now is the combined efforts of that. I think what happened during the process was there was a very sort of binary preservation versus housing kind of dialogue that happened at each committee. And what this letter attempts to do is kind of thread the needle to send a note to the mayor saying, look, LPC has had some shortcomings in the past. You have an opportunity, but you're a pro-housing mayor, so let's balance preservation and housing, and let's make sure we get somebody appointed to LPC who will respect preservation concerns, but also will balance it with housing. And we broke it into 3 kind of categories: the impact of LPC approvals on historic resources and the housing supply. The second is the compatibility of preservation and development. And third is sort of the concerns regarding the lack of funding and responsiveness from LPC over the past few years that we've experienced. So this would have to come out of executive committee as an executive committee letter for full board vote. So this is the recommendation to get this letter from this committee to go to full board for approval.
Christine?
Greg? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I want to say I really, really enjoyed that letter. I thought it was just amazing. I thought it was really the balance between the two things and the demonstration of how one helps the other was absolutely amazing. And then bravo to whoever worked on it. And it's just couldn't be more positive and constructive, and it's terrific. Thank you.
And this was David Holoko's. Wasn't this the first draft he wrote?
Yeah.
And then it went through a bunch of
bunch of people.
committees,
A
a lot of
bunch
committees
people.
over a couple months. Kevin and then Jesse.
Really great.
Sure. I thought the letter, I agree with Christine. Christine, we also invoked your name in the committee because a lot of the good points were at the bottom of the letter. So we moved them up to the top.
we
I
did.
know.
We
I
did.
noticed.
So we invoked the Christine document. But the discussion did veer down towards A versus B, but I think the end letter, as Paul articulated, does a very good job in the balancing. If you look at the first paragraph, recognizing that preservation and housing can and must work together, and that landmarks does not mean that communities are frozen in amber. So I think it's a very good letter and I support it. Thanks.
Jesse?
I first of all also just want to commend, this letter has come so far from how we saw it last month. I apologize, I missed the CLU meeting because I was sick, and so I didn't get a chance to comment on it there. I really, really, really appreciate all the work that went into this because I do feel like concerns were heard from both sides. And so this has come a long way. And so, yeah, let me just extend my gratitude. I do want to say, and I'm not making an argument to try and sink this letter. I'm really not. I personally will still be voting against it just because of the signal I do think it sends in a housing crisis and about. I don't think that preservation is neutral in a housing crisis, and that preservation tends to more often than not function as a supply limiter, and even more often than not, and that is just my own objection. But really, like, this has come so far, and I'm so appreciative. So thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. I think this is very much and I see David, I'm guessing you want to talk. I think this is a very quintessential CB4 letter of getting, this really is exemplary of CB4, I think. So David, go ahead.
Yeah, in the last executive meeting, Jesse cited information from the NYU Furman Center. In 2016, it issued a report called 50 Years of Historic Preservation in New York City that looked at data from 2004 to 14. I just want to set the record straight on that. Jesse quoted the Furman Center as saying, quote, historic districts are far less likely to see new residential construction than comparable non-landmarked areas in the same community district. I don't find that in the report. It does say we cannot and do not aim to say definitively whether the additional layer of regulation that comes with historic district designation actually reduces construction and alteration activity. It says that residential soft sites, lots that are built to less than half their FAR, are more likely to be developed with new buildings when they're outside of historic districts, but notes that these out-of-district development sites are more likely to be vacant lots that are excluded when historic district boundaries are created. It finds that lots inside historic districts were only 2.9% less likely to see new construction than those in the surrounding community. Jesse also said the effects of landmarking are not evenly distributed, citing the study's finding that, quote, historic districts tend to be wealthier, whiter, and more expensive than surrounding areas. The report doesn't say this is an effective landmarking and specifically says it should not be interpreted as having been caused by the designation of districts.
David, I'm sorry, is this about the letter though specifically?
Well, I just want to set the record straight about what was stated before so that everyone knows what the Furman Center study said, and hopefully to convince Jesse to vote for this letter. I know we're going to have a long night, but also, I would just like to point out that effectively one building last year in fiscal year 2025 saw new landmark designation. There were only 4 designations: the interior and exterior of Marcel Breuer's Whitney Museum, which was already in a historic district, and an interior in a building that was already designated. So that's one new landmark in all of New York in last year. And the city saw more housing production than it has in the last 60 years.
Thank you, David. And thank you for getting this ball rolling with the letter as well. Joe?
Yeah, I just want to say that I think the letter does show our nuance and how we balance things. And I would move its adoption because we spent a lot of time on it.
Well, we have some people that might want to comment first because I see Maria's hand is up.
The adoption, that's all.
Okay. Maria, and then Kevin, did you have your no? Okay.
I was just going to say that I really liked the letter when I read it, and something that stood out to me, and I think I'm highlighting this sentence because I think there's a difference. I hear you, Jesse, and but I think there's a difference between facts and opinions. And there's a sentence in this letter: within CB4, we have vast areas of historic districts, yet we remain the largest housing producer in Manhattan. And that's a fact. And I think we actually need to source that sentence. And because I think, yes, the balance is important. And that's it.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, Christine. Any seconds?
Second.
To approve the letter, obviously.
Yeah.
Second.
Great. All in favor? Any against?
Wait, this is with Maria's amendment to source that statement, no?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was just gonna,
Okay.
I was
Sure, with the footnote, with a little footnote. Yeah.
Okay,
But
just
no,
clarifying, thank you.
thank you.
I'm sorry, all in favor? All opposed?
I
Present
wasn't
not
convinced to vote for it, but I'll abstain. Thank you,
Uh,
Debbie.
abstentions? Present not eligible?
So we moved him a little bit.
Great. Yeah. It was Maria's footnote.
We moved him just a little bit.
Paul, do you want me to add the footnote? Or do you want to add the footnote? I think we had the last hand in this thing. There was a lot of hands in this, but Paul, do you want me to button that up?
That'd be great. Thanks, Greg.
Gotcha.
Great. Thanks, guys. And thank you, David. Next, number 4. Is that we're on number 4? Oh, this is the BLP committee. This is also another letter that's kind of been bandied about, right? Letter to the New York City Council Committee of Transportation Infrastructure. This is regarding the access to the roadway and sidewalk cafes. I'm guessing this is Christine or Frank. Are you taking this?
I'm gonna do a little background and then Christine
Okay.
will handle the letter because she drafted it. Just quickly, as people will remember, last November there was a city council bill to change the outdoor dining rules. We had a big discussion at full board, ended up approving a letter that essentially objected to most of the bill, although it was in favor of year-round roadway dining. That bill did not pass in 2025. A couple weeks ago, a new bill was introduced in the city council that in most ways mimicked last year's bill with some modifications. We had hoped to bring it to BLP in March, but late last week we learned that the city council has scheduled a hearing for March 3rd, which is not only before BLP, but it's also before our next full board meeting, which is why we are going to discuss this letter now, which Christine has drafted.
Yeah, so yeah, I think the gist of the letter first is to say we are not happy with the process. We never have the time to do the right job and to do a perfect, what we would do otherwise for public outreach. And then what is in that legislation is most of what is in the legislation we do not support. And by do not support, I'm saying that based on the hearing we had at the full board and the document we have received since then. So we have not had a specific committee, but we heard a lot and it was very enlightening at the full board. So one of the things they want to do is to let food stores have sidewalk cafe. So that would be more cluttering on sidewalk cafe. I think it's crazy. I think it makes no sense. And so we say we're not supporting that. We are also not supporting to expand the footprint of the roadway or the sidewalk cafe so that it goes in front of other properties. So, can you imagine, the sidewalk going in front of a residential building and now being very noisy for the neighbors. So we are not supporting that. And they also want to expand to get closer to the crosswalk and reduce the space, which is, should be kept free for pedestrian and cars to see each other. And the bottom is essentially saying, we would rather you don't change the program at all, but you strengthen the enforcement and you strengthen the rules, because the problem we have now is from time to time, the rules are being changed by the lawyers in the city, and not being reviewed by the public and not being reviewed by the community board. And that puts us in a very difficult situation. So that's the idea of the letter, which is to capture as much as we can from what we heard at the hearing.
Right, and I would just add that the board office got written comments from 2 community members, essentially objecting to the cluttering of sidewalks and saying that any changes to the rules should be conditioned on greater enforcement of the existing rules.
Joe.
Joe, and then Marty.
Yeah, Christine, are we making it clear that we're not in support of the year-round roadway because that's one of the changes? Is that explicit?
No, we are not. Well, we are saying this letter is complementary to the letter we had before. And the letter we had before was in favor of the 12 months. And I think the situation here from a protocol standpoint is I'm not sure that this committee can override a vote from the full
This was
board.
asked to go back to BLP. There's a timing issue. And now you drafted something after hearing serious public input.
Yeah.
The majority of which were against the year round. So that is the process we're in. So whatever we say in this executive committee that's coming out of here, then any changes can be made.
So Joe, I re-listened to all the testimony on the full board, and most of them were about sidewalk cafe and sidewalk. They were not about roadway cafe. So when I look back at them one by one, and I was very careful of, trying to figure what it is.
Christine, so, I just want to say this honestly and call it out. You are in favor of the year-round roadway. You made it very clear. And the process you have, because of the timing sometimes, you use process to defeat public input. The public input here has come from multiple block associations in Chelsea and in Hell's Kitchen. And I think you need to hear it because I don't think there's an overwhelming, we as a community want 12 months of roadway dining.
Well, I think,
and that's it. I'll leave it at that.
No, you can't leave it at that because you just accused me of manipulating the schedule.
I can leave it at that.
So you can leave it at that, but I need to respond that this is not the case. We have had a number of emails and letters going back and forth to demonstrate that the process was not manipulated at all.
No, I'm talking about, you just said you cannot change a committee's position. Of course you can. You have a letter in front.
No. What I mean is that I don't think we can change the board position. I think what we can do is a full board vote on the last letter. And
if we have a timing issue, Christine, we engage here and then it gets ratified at the full board. That's the standard process we have on all these kind of things that have a timing matter. You made a choice not to include it. That's all.
Marty.
I find myself between a rock and a hard place. I do not favor roadside dining. I favor this letter because it offers restrictions to what that could be.
I favor this letter too. If we include explicitly that we did not support.
Wait, Joe, you are not on.
Yeah, Joe, hold on. Joe, just let Marty, and then we have a few people lined up, and then you can go back. Let's just go lined up.
It's hard to see my screen. It's kind of small.
Rachel, and then Jessica.
Yes, thank you so much, Christine. Just had a question about the nature of the legislation and a point on the letter. So am I understanding correctly that the proposed modification basically would allow businesses to put things like sandwich boards in front of adjoining properties? Is that right? And that's what we're objecting
sidewalk
to?
cafes and roadway cafes, not sandwich board.
So, okay. And when we say that street seats program is a better option,
yeah,
why is it a better option?
Because it is in the roadway instead of being on the sidewalk.
It's in the roadway instead of the sidewalk. Okay,
right.
Okay. I would like to make a hopefully friendly amendment to maybe make that point clear as to like why that is, because I'm not familiar with the street seats program.
Okay.
And also I have heard from, some of our constituents that like these sidewalk cafes, or, some alternative of that is really helpful or even critical to especially small businesses. So I want to be mindful of that. I'm going to sound like a Ted Arenas, right, in our meetings, but basically want to be mindful and strike that balance that we talked about earlier of us being supportive of our small businesses and pointing to that alternative of the street seats program being a better option because of that reason, as just so we're not blanketly saying no
But street
to.
seats is not about cafes or anything. It's just about public
Joe,
seating.
just let her just.
Not sure. I'm not familiar with that. I'm going to defer to Christine on that, but I think there is a reason why we are saying, I think we do a good job historically in our CB4 letters when we say like no to bus stops here, but rather down this block. I would like for them to, like for us to show that we have done our research and also can point to better alternatives, and also taking into account some voices we've heard in previous meetings about this topic, to make sure we are still being supportive of small businesses, because it is a little bit heartbreaking when I'm walking down our avenues to see some of our kind of long tenured small shops closing down recently for many reasons, especially like years after the pandemic, they're still struggling. So I would like to just give a little bit of consideration to them as well. I don't know if the legislation allows for exceptions based on those who are more heavily relying on sidewalk options, but I do agree and sympathize with like the pedestrian woes. Like I am a pedestrian myself, right? So just wanted to make sure that we can kind of give a little bit of nod to that and respect to that as well.
We can do that.
Thank you. Jessica?
Yeah, thanks. And sorry to put Frank on the spot, but Frank, I seem to remember us going back and forth about getting feedback on this topic back when it was voted on at the board. And I seem to recall BLP had a hearing and nobody put this on the agenda, and it was not well attended. So it may be less substance of the letter, but I would just like it. Maybe you can just clarify for us what did happen.
Yeah, so two things happened. In November of last year, we put it on the BLP agenda, properly noticed and everything. We only had one person from the public who both spoke and submitted comments. But last month, we actually had a full public hearing at the full board meeting where probably, 10 to 12 people from the public spoke. But we did not have the new bill at the time. So the comments were sort of either addressed to the last year's bill or generally about concerns. But the full board did hear from a number of people from the community.
Thank you. Katie?
Hi. So from what I recall from the last full board meeting, most of the concerns that people had were purely with the roadway dining. There didn't seem to be any big concerns from the public regarding the sidewalk. There were like more, wanting people to have enough space and all of that, but most people were talking about how the roadway sheds, when they're not used in the winter, they end up getting cluttered up with furniture and they become storage sheds. They're not kept up. But that was the main thrust of it. It wasn't anything against the sidewalk dining. I think most people were very open to sidewalk cafes. It's something that have existed for a long time prior to the pandemic. However, the roadway dining is the thing that I think people were really objecting to with the year-round, particularly in relation to recent snow events and how outdoor dining would make snow removal much more difficult. And I think that was, really the thing that I don't think anyone really had anything bad to say. And I think they all agreed with the criticisms and the suggestions for the sidewalk dining. But to me, outdoor dining was, roadway dining was specifically called out as something the community did not want to have year round.
Okay, well, it's not my reading, and I think we cannot resolve that here. So I'm going to ask that Jesse listen to the hearings and get back to us on his reading of what the people have said. It's not my reading at all, but
This is how we get in trouble.
I think, hold on, I think we really reached out to the public, and I know we always talk about reaching out to the public and we want everyone's input. And in this case, I think BLP went above and beyond for sure, and they went, and I do think that the public, when they were prodded and we kind of told them that was on, they did come out and they did say that they had a problem with year-round roadway dining. And Even I don't want to really talk about outside the confines of CB4, but if you just look at public comments around, either at newsletters or magazine, you know, I think we know the gist of, in general, though we can't really rely on that. But I will go back, and the one thing that maybe Christine and Frank, you can kind of educate me a little bit more on. When this was first brought up about 2 years ago, when we were first going through all of the parameters of the outdoor dining system, and there was much more discussion within our committees and CB4 to say, you know, we like this, we don't like this. We had a list of parameters, and one was, I could be wrong, but one I thought was not year round. It was agreeing with what was painstakingly agreed to and all these different elements. And that's what we overwhelmingly approved as a community board and handed it in. And then, you know, they came up with the outdoor dining rules subsequently. This part of it, to me, again, this seems like a reverse from that group of way of thinking and how we kind of came to those conclusions. I thought very deliberately. So I just don't, you know, it seems like a little bit of a 180. And then knowing that we heard all of these, I just would be remiss if we asked the public to come out and to talk and to get them out. And then they did say what they thought. And then we're saying, well, okay, we're going to do this. I just want to, Paul, then Kevin, maybe someone can.
Leslie, I don't think that's the case. First of all, I mean, I am very cognizant. I went and I listened 2 times to all the comments. So, you know, there is not an attempt here. I'd say they didn't say that.
I don't think it's deliberate, for sure.
So
Yeah.
for sure, I was intent on being clear on that. And as far as what we said the first time was 9 months, and we just said, fine, it's 9 months. What happened since then is that a lot of people have not applied because 9 months is not viable. So what came out is that it's, you know, what, as Rachel was talking about small businesses, the people can't afford it. They can't afford the 9 months.
Right. No, I understand. And I've heard the opposite.
It just doesn't work. And my perspective is only that. It just doesn't
Yeah.
work.
No, I see it.
You know,
I hear that.
The sidewalk cafe, people pay for 12 months. They can use it only 9. But on the roadway, they pay for 9 months, and it just doesn't work. So that's my only.
No, that makes sense, Christine. That makes sense, and I don't think it's. No, Christine, I understand. I don't think it's deliberate. I think you guys are in a hard spot with the timing, very much so. You know, like you're trying to kind of piece together with the timing, for sure. I mean, I think we've also heard from some owners that, you know, the profit margins in the winter are negligible anyway, right? Are lower. But I mean, I don't think that's part of the letter, nor should it be. I'm just, if that's the argument, but
no, but that's not the point. The profit margin in the winter is very low, but if we have to remove everything in the winter, now it makes your cost of the whole installation extremely high.
Higher,
So
yeah, that makes sense. Paul, then Kevin, and then Joe. And then we have some people in the public that will move over, Jesse, when we get done with thank you.
I just wanted to sort of echo the concern that the perception of what the public was talking about. There were certainly members of the public who opposed the roadside dining. They talked about the problem with the snow and the rats and the dirt and the blah, 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 and those people were opposed to it. They were opposed to every notion of outdoor dining from the outset pre-COVID. And then we also heard from the business owners who said, if it's not year-round, it's not economically viable, and it's very challenging, and it's hard on our cost structures and whatnot. And so I think that there is a split in the public opinion. I don't think the public opinion is so solidly one side or the other, because we do have to consider our local business owners part of the public. And I would urge us to try to find a way, like we just did with the LPC letter. We are very good at kind of finding solutions to this conundrum. And I would like for us to try to work towards that solution and figure out how do we propose language that maybe these street seats plans, which are much less cumbersome to install and remove, might be a better design component for the street roadside dining. It might be that we restrict, I don't know, I just think there are other alternatives that we should be looking into, because I don't think the public is unanimous on this in one side or the other. There are pros and cons, and I think it would be helpful if we could come up with a solution.
Kevin?
Yeah, I understand and agree with a lot with what Paul said, and I'm trying to listen to Rachel and Katie. But I just want to make sure that I at least understand the specifics that we're talking about, because the Streets program is an entity, a business, having tables and chairs, not on the sidewalk, but on a super sidewalk or an extended sidewalk out in the street, correct?
No,
Chris-
on the parking lane,
In the
on
street, yeah.
on the parking lane.
Right, but there could be some situations where the immediate thing next to the sidewalk is not a parking lane, it's a extended super sidewalk, correct?
But the only thing that exists today, it's in the parking lane. The super sidewalk has not been tagged as being doing that. So I'm just correcting you.
Okay, but intro 655 is talking about the entity expanding on the sidewalk in front of its premises, correct?
It's talking about two things: the installing a sidewalk, so the sidewalk installing a sidewalk cafe, so it's on the sidewalk, the existing sidewalk,
right,
or installing a roadway cafe, which is on the parking lane, and these are modifications to the existing program, right?
Right.
It's not new. It's what we are doing. These are small modifications to the existing
Thanks for
program.
clarifying that. I'll just conclude by saying I agree we should strive to strike a balance, because in talking to a lot of people in the community, there's concerns about you walk down the avenue or the street and it's entity blank, entity blank, or vacant, whatever. And we should listen to to a lot of different folks, but also the businesses, as I think Ted articulated, their concerns about being surviving.
I thank you.
Kevin, I agree with your point, which is when people are walking on the sidewalk, there is entity, and it's the problem. The problem is more the sidewalk than the roadway. So that's
No, what I meant was having blank stores. That's
Empty
not good.
stores.
He's talking about vacancies.
Vacancies, yeah.
Yeah. Like Joe and then Katie.
Yeah, we got to just dissect some of this. First and foremost, street seats are a public program. I actually have a street seat on West 35th Street and 10th Avenue. The key here is they're not accessible, ADA accessible, right? And anything with dining must be. So therefore, they're not analogous programs, Christine. They're just not the same. And the other issue is that with diners sitting all the time there, it's about there are barriers that protect the diner should a car go into the roadway dining, right? So that's
well, we can remove that suggestion if
yeah, I think I just want to say I think it confuses it because they're really very separate, right?
That's fine.
Then,
we can remove it.
Kevin, we are not dying from vacant storefronts on 9th Avenue because of a lack of either roadway or sidewalk cafes. We are dying because many owners are not realizing that the market's come down. I speak from the point of view of an owner, and I've adjusted rents down to capture retail tenants. Other people think we're still in the world, and it's the make or break is simply not going to be a sidewalk cafe. It's going to enrich it. And I know I have many tenants like that are sidewalk cafes or roadway dining. But the thing that I want to note again, we heard from the public. I made a request, the two block associations, the Health Kitchen Neighbor Coalition and Council of Chelsea Block Associations made a request to come to do a public hearing. It was thought come to a full board. That happened. And I was there. I heard everything. It's not a perception. I had to go through it. There was a lot of concern about the roadway dining.
And that I do want to note, and regardless of who came, and spoke, we do have two letters or a joint letter, one from CCBA, which is the Chelsea Block Association. So all of them, and then Hell's Kitchen Neighborhood Coalition, which some of us are on, but which is also a coalition of block associations. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jesse Bodine, but and both of them had a problem with year-round, right? I mean, that was a written letter from the organizations of our two biggest block association consortiums. So I don't know how many more can right?
Right,
And-
and can we clarify, so Joe, you're here as the
I'm speaking as a board member, Christine, and you know it.
okay.
And I'm not going to obfuscate at all. I'm speaking as a board member trying to note that there's a process that happened. And again, we are not listening to our own constituents in the neighborhood. I agree with Ted, actually, Rachel or Kevin. I spoke to him during the meeting, and he said the biggest issue was how do you store stuff in those 3 months, right? And it was going to mean that more established owners would do roadway dining than others. Actually, I prefer more established owners who know how to manage through things like this, as opposed to the fly-by-night stuff we saw in the pandemic. It's a real problem. And I absolutely know that I had many roadway dining spots out of buildings that Clinton Housing owned that were used for storage. And they were
Yeah,
used
but
for
we're
people to
not
hang
in
out.
COVID anymore, right?
I
We have
know.
a new
No, we're
program.
not going to be in COVID, but we're going to be in a corral. And
But we
and it-
have a new program where they are there 9 months, nine months a year,
Right,
right?
but the bill in front of us is to extend that to 12, and we are silent on that as a position. I recommend that we, on our position, all the things Christina said already about, not expanding past and not food stores, but we say 9 months because was the big political compromise that happened. And now we know that the, hospitality lobby is really fighting it. And that's what this is about. We're down to it. So I leave it at that. And that's my recommendation. We add it to 9 months.
Did you just make a motion?
I made a motion, but I also want to put in there and that we work together. Here's the compromise part of it with the smaller business owners, not the large ones, to help them figure out how to manage this storage. And we work together with them in the city because that to me makes sense. That was Ted's big concern. He said if that can be figured out, this would be much more affordable.
I will say, and I don't know if this, I mean, this did come up at Borough Board, and I know we were definitely very much the outliers on this issue. As far as all the community boards, having thoughtful discussion on the year round. And I don't know if that sways us. I don't think it should because I don't think our neighborhood is the exact same. Every neighborhood is a little different. So I'm not saying I don't think it should be exact. It's not apples to apples necessarily. Katie and then Rachel.
When it comes to, the main issue that businesses are having with the outdoor dining is that the approved structures are very expensive. And I wonder if instead of extending it to be year round, because there are a lot of issues with that. Like realistically, when it was 18 degrees, were people going to be eating outside? No. And we don't know what the weather is going to be like. And there you also have, safety concerns. Quite honestly, when this first came up at the November full board meeting, Ted told me he took down his roadway dining at Rise because a car ran into it. So, it hasn't been proven to be like 100%. And I think if it would be possible to, instead of expanding it to year round, that the Department of Transportation and whoever the stakeholders involved can try to find cost savings in the design and how it is, because the way it is and the way the city has created this marketplace and all these, approved vendors and whatnot, it's like creating a new cottage industry for outdoor dining sheds. Restaurants existed and thrived pre-COVID without any dining in the roadway. So I just don't know why, when we've only had 1 year to work out a program that has a lot of kinks and a lot of complications, that we immediately want to extend it, particularly after seeing, the issues we had this winter. Those dining sheds would 100% be destroyed in a snowstorm. I mean, it happened in COVID time as well. And I think if we put emphasis on finding ways to lower the cost of the roadway structures, that could make it easier for the businesses to manage having them 9 months out of the year.
That'll be a second amendment.
Wait, Rachel.
Okay. So I actually was looking at the text of the legislation here. I don't know if I'm able to share it, but as Christine noted, it does build upon the existing laws, right? And the meat of the change is, in addition to the year-round thing, it's saying any person owning, leasing, managing, or operating ground floor restaurant with less
Sorry,
than 20
Rachel,
feet of
hold
ground.
on. Can you just stop sharing your, oh, okay.
Oh, can you see
Okay.
this part?
No,
You know,
but
it's
stop
this.
sharing, just tell us.
Yeah. So it's basically, I just want to like show people that it's really, the changes are relatively discrete. So, and it even contemplates snow removal and sanitation. So I just wanted to, because there is no chat function for our executive meeting, I just wanted to direct everyone's attention and encourage everyone to look at the text if possible. But I would like to make a motion. I would like
Well,
to make
before we do a motion, hold on, before we do that, there are people in the public that want to
Oh.
speak. So we have to give
Okay,
them
then can I just say, I think what I'm hearing here is we can potentially update the letter to acknowledge, maybe specify the public input that we had, to acknowledge that we have provided those opportunities and gather certain feedback, and fully agree with Paul, propose solutions, specifically exceptions to small businesses, you know, Joe's point about collaborating, working with them on cost saving measures, as Joe and Katie noted. And yeah, I'll leave it at that, and we can hear from the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Inga, I think you have to put your camera on.
Yeah.
If you can, please. Thanks.
I'm on. Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Thank you. So I agree with Joe and Katie on this. CCBA and the Hell's Kitchen Alliance, CCBA consisting of 18 block association and tenants association in Chelsea alone, without the Hell's Kitchen section, wrote letters, went and testified, and taking this when it hasn't even gone through 1 year of success to just saying yes. The CCBA is opposed. That means 18 block associations in Chelsea times how many people and residents. So you're not listening to the community. They do not want sidewalk cafes 12 months a year. This was discussed when this first came out. There was a huge amount of public input. When this came before BLP, and I believe it was in October, that Christine brought it at the end of the meeting.
Inga.
New business. Wait, just a minute. There's a point. The hospitality lead attorney was invited to stay on and speak. The public had no idea what was going on. So this was sort of legally snuck in. There
Well,
was
I think it was just the timing of, I think it was just timing. I don't think the procedure was incorrect. I think it's just wild timing of how, you know, the timing of the BLP meeting and the timing that we thought, CB4 thought that the bill was going to come to the floor. Correct, Christine? It was a timing thing. It wasn't anything that
It
was.
was, yeah, that was October, then it went to November, went before the board. This hasn't even been in effect for a full year. So why would we want to go against such a large portion of our community? Basically, the majority of our community is saying no to year-round dining. That is the biggest issue for CCBA and Hell's Kitchen. We wrote letters, 18 block associations, and Joe, you can clarify how many BAs are involved in Hell's Kitchen. So this is a major part of the community and you're excluding their opinion. This hasn't even been in effect for a year and you're saying, let's just do it.
Thank you, Inga.
It's wrong. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Andrew?
Hi, I actually didn't expect to speak tonight, so I'll keep it really brief. My name's Andrew Goldstein. I've lived in Hell's Kitchen since 1990. I'm a member of the HK 4952 or 54 Block Association, which Katie's a member of. I kind of agree with most of what Katie said. Essentially, I'm not opposed to year-round sheds, but the way that they've designed them, it just seems very counterintuitive to having them year-round. So to have them lightweight and, you know, they're not winterized, right? That's one thing. So what they did before kind of counteracts what they did now. I think if they're not winterized, basically though, you will have homeless people, you will have them storing stuff. I've had multiple sheds back to back on my street where there's nowhere to go if they're being mugged or raped or someone's coming after you. And I did go to the full board meeting, kind of said the same thing. The community itself didn't get told we could even go about the issue on the full board until a few days before. And I just got Nellie's email about this meeting. I just happened to show up, but we're not getting told about anything. And then the last thing or two things. One is, as an actual community member, I know everyone has a different experience. When I've had challenges and I've tried to raise a complaint with DOT about a wide variety of issues, nothing really happens. So that's kind of like a problem in itself. If there was, then perhaps it'd be different. My big question is, what else is in this bill that was mentioned at the very top of this segment where restaurants could expand to the areas like in front of the buildings next to them? Could somebody just elaborate on that?
Yeah,
Thanks.
very quickly, if you're a restaurant with a storefront smaller than 20 feet, you can ask the building next door to allow you to expand in front of it but you need the written consent of the neighboring building. You can't do it unilaterally, and it only applies to places that are restaurants that are smaller than 20 feet in the first place.
And they have to apply through the regular process and be approved as well, correct?
If you do not have a sidewalk cafe, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Lydia,
Yeah, hi.
can you put your camera on, Lydia, for us? Is that okay, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi. So I appreciate you having this meeting, but I want to say that something Paul responded to. Paul, the community thinks the compromise already happened when we agreed to do 9 months instead of 12 months. And, I'm on the street all the time talking to people, and it's a quality of life issue for the community. And the restaurant lobby has been very smart and very efficient at all this. But what it comes down to is that the community came to the meeting and expressed itself on this issue. And the answer was they don't want 12-month dining. And the other problem is that we have a real enforcement issue with sidewalk dining all over the city. One of the reasons I think the roadway proposals look the way they looked is that so many restaurants in the kind of latent period after COVID really violated the rules and the letter of the law over and over again. And so now we're in a situation where the community is being asked to take on a quality of life issue that we don't know enforcement will be good at, and that we don't have an advocate sticking up for us. And I think it's really important that the community board hear the voices of the community on this. And we are not the only community board. As far as I understand, CB2 and the Village has also come out against this. So thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you for coming. We have one more, Layla Logisico. Jesse, if you could bring her over. And Susan Marshall, bring her over. Those are the two hands I see up. And Matthew Robinson, bring him over. His hand is up as well. And Renee Kitt. The hands are going up. Only, just a reminder, only if it's about this specific issue, guys. If there's other things on the agenda, then we can wait, but if it's about this issue. I think I saw Layla. Was she? Oh, there you are. Hi, Layla. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I'm not going to belabor the point. Just want to state very clearly that, I came to testify to the full board last month. I clearly expressed my opposition to the roadbed dining and year-round operation. I concur with the comments that were made by Joe, as well as Katie, Lydia, Inga, this is a huge externality that is brought on the community. The enforcement is not adequate, and I really urge Community Board 4 to listen to your constituents. Just listen to your constituents. We are your community, and it is really incumbent on you to listen to what we have to say. Numerous came to speak. Please don't discard the voice of the community. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Layla and Susan, and then we'll go to Matthew.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I know you have a tight time limit tonight. Susan Palmer Marshall, President of the Council of Chelsea Block Associations. And I appreciate what Katie and Rachel and Joe have said also, and Inga. But I think if the program's to succeed, even at the 9 months, it needs the strong and consistent enforcement from the outset. And I appreciate that that's in the letter. But something that I said at the hearing last month is why are these restaurateurs, wanting to spend this money on these increasing costs for these structures when they want to model a European type of outdoor dining? Get the chairs, get the umbrellas, do it for the 9 months, which I can't even imagine what 9 months we're talking about, but that's another thing. But and then put it in storage. I mean, one and done. That's my story. If my assessment, if expansion is contemplated, it must be accompanied by enforceable standards, seasonal practicality, and demonstrated citywide support. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Matthew, can you hear me? And can you put on your, if you can you put on your camera, please?
I can speak, and it's going to be very, very short.
Sure.
In terms of the roadbed, what about the roadbed with respect to it being adjacent to the bicycle lane? On an avenue, you then have the bicyclists, sort of going across a roadbed unit, and that's actually dangerous on many levels and wrong. So it's actually, on one side of the avenue is different than the other. One has the bicycle lane, the other one has the bus lane. And I think there's some concerns with that. And I agree with everyone else in terms of regulation and enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Renee, I think Renee is our last voice from the public.
All I can say is what everyone else has said. Listen to your constituents. Listen to the people who have to live with this. It's almost unlivable. At times you can barely pass. It's very difficult, especially when the rats come out and everything else that happens. At this point, 9 months should never have been the compromise, but it is what it is. The goal is to actually have a livable New York, and at this point, we really don't have it.
Thank you, Renee.
So Leslie, I want to make a proposal.
Sure.
I think what I'm hearing loud and clear is something I kind of agree with, is like changing the program so soon after it has been put in is not reasonable. And I think we could take that section of the letter and make it saying, our position is that we shouldn't change the program now, and we are not supporting anything which is in the bill, which includes the 12 months requirement. And, rather than going line by line, just say, this is what we want is enforcement, what we want is better rules, and we think it's way too early to change that, and we need a lot more history before we understand how to change it. So that's my suggestion.
Okay, I think that sounds, thank you, Christine. Do we need to keep going on this, or are we going to accept Christine's?
I'm trying to put an amendment to that so we can wrap it up all together.
Sure, go ahead, Joe.
So first, that we add in some language, Christine, about trying to work with DOT and small businesses to make the roadway dining more affordable, right? And also figure out if there's any way to assist in the storage, but that we explicitly say that we support keeping it at 9 months now, and we don't support because of the very reason you said, which is, it's too new. and that
Yeah,
we
I
do
would
support the
say,
other
that we are not supporting any of the proposal which are in the
Right, but I'm
letter.
making it very explicit because that's what I'm hearing from the constituents to say support it at 9 months now. And then as the thing goes ahead, of course you come back and look at it, but that's the problem. We're just jumping ahead.
Okay.
Is that okay with you, Christine, as far
Yeah,
as
it's
the
good.
language? Jesse? And
Yeah,
then
and
Rachel.
as this letter is taking shape, I think this makes more sense. And I don't think there's anything wrong with sharing the concerns we've heard, because people do have concerns about enforcement and regulation. And on the other side, it's a complex issue. So then we can expand this letter and say on the other side, there are, this bill does add new requirements for snow removal and sanitation, as Rachel pointed out. And so, we can commend that. We can also talk about the fact that they're trying to lower some of the fees associated with putting up all of these these roadside cafes. So and ultimately, we can try to find more balance here. But there's nothing wrong with sharing, that people are frustrated with how this has rolled out over the last year. That does make sense to me.
Thank you, Jesse. And Rachel, you'll have the last word and before we vote on
Thank
this.
you. Thank you. I think one way we can address many of the concerns raised by those who came to speak from the public, which we greatly appreciate, is really just giving that credit, right? So Christine, like I mentioned at the beginning, MCB4, we had hearings and heard from the public on XYZ points, right? Laying out their concerns on both sides. And also, I think Inga had mentioned that there have been community statements from like the CCBA or the 18 block associations. To the extent that we have publicly available resources, I think we're really good at footnoting them, resourcing them, right? And then also in the point about the point you made, Christine, about we'd like to learn more about it, right? Be a part of the process. I saw that explicit carve out about something about not providing community boards with further materials. I don't know what that's about, but we need to know further about what the intent of that is or the repercussions of that will be. So making sure that we offer to be a continued partner in this, like offering our community input and insights, because I think I hear strong and loud the concerns around enforcement, right? So maybe we can offer to be that kind of sounding board or voice or connector with the community concerns with the department. So I think offering ourselves up as that linchpin would be a good reminder in this email.
Okay, where is Frank? Frank is gone.
Yep.
Oh, he's here. He's here.
Oh, Frank is here. So Frank, are you okay with that, with my suggestion?
Yeah, I am, although I think the focus of the letter should strongly be on opposing this bill. I don't think we want to dilute that by too many suggestions of, alternate. I mean, I like Joe's suggestions about working with small businesses and things, but I don't want to get into parsing the bill and saying we like, some minor parts of it. I think we just say, it's your point. It's too soon to start.
Yeah, it's too soon, and
Something
what
that was debated for years.
Agreed.
Frank, just to make clear, I wasn't suggesting parsing out the bill, because that's just not conducive at this stage. I totally understand that. What I'm suggesting is when we are taking a stance in opposition of this bill, it would give us a bit of weight in saying we have gathered community input from X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, Rachel, I wasn't objecting at all to that. I think that's very useful to say. I was just, I thought I heard you saying we should commend them for including the snow removal and stuff. And it's
I don't think we should commend or criticize those things at this stage.
So do you want me to make a motion or somebody else make a motion?
Someone has to make a motion.
Motion to do all of the above.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Great. All opposed? Abstentions? Present not eligible? Great. Thank you, guys.
Confirm, Christine, that was in opposition?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. That was thank you. Let's get to the next thing let's see. Are we on number 5 here? This is WPE about the scaffolding collapse at Ramona Ponte Playground on 47th Street. I believe this is because there was no quorum at WPE. All right, Katie or Marty, who is taking this one?
I can take it, Marty.
Just to be clear, I also thought that there was a time sensitivity around this. That's why it's at exec. Is that correct?
Oh, I thought it was because there was no quorum.
Well,
No,
there's both. There was no quorum at the meeting, and we wanted to prioritize this letter because scaffolding collapse in a playground.
Right, but just to be clear, we want this letter to go out before full board. That's why we're having it on the agenda.
Yes.
There's plenty of committees, as we know, plenty of committees that have not had quorum this month. So in general, I just want to make sure that that's not what we're putting on exec, but because we want this out ASAP.
Yeah, I think
Right.
it's because
And
it's
Jesse,
like-
not tonight, not by midnight.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah,
We'll do it. We could do tomorrow.
But I just want to make sure that we understand that's why we put stuff on.
Yes.
Yeah, so what was it? Maybe 2 weeks ago? The day before the WPE meeting, I think.
The 11th.
The scaffolding in Ramona Ponte playground on West 47th Street collapsed into the playground. It was at night. The park was already closed. There was no one there. But earlier in the day, and we had multiple parents come to our meeting to talk about how that park was filled with kids about 4 hours prior to this happening. There have been a lot of issues back and forth with this building, with their scaffolding. The owner got there very soon after he heard about the collapse from neighbors. And he, stayed there overnight to deal with the situation. The scaffolding that was collapsed has now been removed. He got approval from DOB for removing that. And he now has to put up new scaffolding. We haven't heard yet how that configuration of the scaffolding is going to be, but it's likely that it may impact some of the uses of the park just to ensure safety. The owner, Kelvin, did also note that he hoped to, or he's committed to having the work done within 3 months of the new scaffolding going up so that he can remove it. It sounds like I know Joe's shaking his head, but it sounds like he was thinking that once he gets all the exterior stuff done, the scaffolding can come down, at least in the park. I don't know. We put it in the letter because that's what he said. So, why not? But yeah, it's basically to parks and I think also to DOB because we did note that we have had a lot of scaffolding in parks in our neighborhood. This is the first one that has collapsed, but the scaffolding in parks have been an issue. And I think due to the nature of that, there should be more oversight from DOB. That is potentially a separate thing, but this is more to, note that Kelvin is providing his updates. He's going to come back to us. He's going to get a report done as to what caused the scaffolding to collapse. He's keeping us updated on everything that's happening and, the process continues to move forward. Paul?
Couple of points. First, I'm not quite sure I understand why this is urgently from executive committee. Can't just wait a couple of weeks to go to full board because the
well,
applicant. Hold on. Can I? Because the
I
applicant.
just had a question though. With the whole quorum thing, does that mean it just goes to full board?
Typically with quorum, if we lack quorum, it comes to exec for then recommendation to full board votes out the letter.
Okay, so then I think that's what we're doing.
That's just the standard procedure.
Yeah, so I think that maybe is what we're doing just because full board is next week.
Yeah, I mean, historically, we have not if a new business item that came out of the consensus of a group of folks that were supposed to have a committee meeting, end up not having a committee meeting, but there was a group of folks that still sat there around in a room and had a conversation, it doesn't need to go to exec. It can go straight to full board as new business. That's what we typically do. So if it needed to do that but with the caveat that it needed to go out ASAP, before full board, such as the two letters that we voted on tonight, with deadlines or things like that, then we would have it at exec. So I think if at the end of the day, if Katie and the folks that are on this who know are knowledgeable about this situation don't necessarily feel like this needs to be expedited before full board or ratified at full board, and it can go out on this Friday as a draft letter and be voted on next week, then this is a moot point, and we don't necessarily have to have a conversation about this.
That means a committee or a group, official group doesn't need to vote on a letter for it to go to full board. I can bring a letter to new business at full board.
You could do that anytime. Yes, you can. Joe's shaking his head, but yes, that is why you have full board. Will it most likely pass, and will you end up creating a lot of confusion and disagreement? Yes. So, but that is what you have. Every committee has new and old business, so new and old business can be raised. And so the alternative, Marty, is that let's say you had a committee meeting and you didn't have quorum. I'm saying this on the record because it's on being recorded. You are supposed to walk away from that meeting. We've spent 2 weeks organizing a committee meeting with agenda items, with preparing your committee, briefing them with all this material. And this is why I sent my email out a week ago, and a couple members decide that they don't really feel like dealing with coming to a meeting in person, and they show up online. You don't have quorum. You're supposed to walk away from that experience without doing no actions, not come to order, not have a conversation, not have a presentation, and you'll have to reschedule everything for either next month or hold some emergency meeting. So our caveat is the way we handle it, is that we all decide to continue on, knowing that we are not coming to order. There won't be a vote taken, but if there is a consensus after the presentation and conversation, and there's a consensus that if a new business letter shows up at full board on this topic, the people in the room are going to say, yeah, that makes sense to me.
So
if we don't want to do that, then that's fine. But the alternative is that if you don't have quorum, you're canceling your meeting and going home that night.
Does that mean we're not supposed to have a conversation under that circumstance?
Technically, if you don't have quorum, you shouldn't be holding a public meeting.
So I would like to
turn off the recorder.
Marty, if we don't have quorum, you're not supposed to meet. But what Jesse's saying is, when people meet and we have the presentations, the procedure has been, ever since we've gone hybrid, when we have trouble reaching quorum, is if the committee reaches a consensus, it comes up as new business under full board, and it's presented as a new business item.
And it's happened before. It's happened before.
And so I was questioning why this was moving.
Yeah, what we want to know, I think we want to know from WPE is the urgency. That's like the.
But hold on, but that also, I had 3 points I'd like to make. That was the first question, is what, procedurally, we're changing precedent by having this happen today when there isn't a statutory deadline to force us like we did with the 2 previous letters. And I just think that this should come up as new business at full board. That being said, I also want to point out that we are planning, the land use committee is also planning to meet with the development team. And just for note, Kelvin is not the owner, he is the development team. So we have to be careful about the language on this because he does not own that facility.
He's the principal of the owner, Paul.
He is?
Yes. He's the owner and the contractor.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. But we are planning to meet with them as well, I think next week. If I look at I'd have to look at my calendar. But we are also starting to plan those conversations about what's been happening to the exterior, what's happening with the scaffolding. So we may have even more information available by full board. So that's why I wanted to make that point.
Does that mean that, depending on what the outcome of your conversation with Kelvin is, that this letter should be merged into the results that you have and it should all come up as new business? Question mark.
I think that the letter that was drafted from WPE, that was a consensus of that committee, that comes up as new business during full board. If we have additional information that we can provide, we can make friendly amendments to that letter and make suggestions based on the continued conversations we have with the development team.
Just to Katie, what I'm hearing was not my understanding of the way this works, so I might have screwed up the process.
I don't know either. I mean, this is my first exec committee. And I think
Well,
we
that's
just
okay. I think
are bringing it up and seeing what
No
needs to
major milk
happen.
is spilled, so I
Yeah.
think we can we have a letter. I think if we can add stuff to it, and we'll have it under new business at full board.
at full board.
Good.
Yeah, that's fine.
No
I
big
just
whoop.
really don't want to minimize the fact that scaffolding fell in a playground that 4 hours prior was filled with children. This
Yep.
is an important situation, regardless of the dynamics and situation, whatever. I think we can all agree on that.
It's a dynamic situation because it's ongoing.
So I just want to note that this is one of the illegal demolition buildings, and we know this owner has had a very difficult time in managing. And Katie, his idea of how many months things will take is not accurate. And the report that he offered is required from him from DOB when there is any kind of collapse of scaffolding. So he wrote a very careful letter apologizing for this. So good that they're at least listening. But the bottom line is they badly managed this construction job for quite a long time, and that's been our whole problem. We're working with the board. So they went through a special permit, and just for everyone's information, they decided to come up with a new facade just 2 weeks ago, which no one knew about. So that's why land use is having a meeting with them about this. And I'm assuming, Katie, the park will be encumbered more for protection, and it makes sense given this owner's record.
Yeah,
What
and
el-
what
what-
I think in relation to this, because it is adjacent to the park, I think it would be good to have someone from WP also involved in that land use
Please.
meeting, so we're all on the same page in relation
Yep.
to this.
Good idea.
What Kelvin said to us, just so you know, Joe, is that not the project would be finished in 3 months, but that all the work on the stucco wall that faces the park would be done in 3 months. And so the scaffolding on that wall could be removed.
Right. And given where we are with the weather, no. And DOB will determine that, not the owner.
Okay, so we have a conclusion here.
Good.
We know this is gonna go. Okay, thank you, WPE. Let's get to our next, we're moving here. Our last, well, not our last agenda item, but our last item of business, I should say, is the committee discussion and the vote on the social media guidelines and administrators. I know, Jesse, is Rachel's newest version in the Dropbox?
No, I mean, I just saw it like.
Yeah,
And-
I mean, she just sent it. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was quick.
I
Guilty.
don't have it in the Dropbox.
Okay, so we thank you to Rachel and to Alice, who's not here. So when we left this last, we talked about this last month, and there were some concerns, there were some questions. And we approached the borough president's office to see, I know that one of the main things is if the borough president's office had any guidelines on this or anything written or anything. And surprise, surprise, they don't. When I broached this with them, they actually said, "Oh, finally, you're getting on." Like they were happy we were getting on, but they didn't really offer any guidance or any formal guidance on what that should be. So then I then met with some of the other board chairs. I think most of them in Manhattan. I didn't go out of the borough, but most of them in Manhattan utilize social media to varying extents. Some use it a lot, some use it a little. But I know there were a few points that we can go over. I know people were.
I'm going to text Jesse right now saying I have to go.
Sorry, Joe. Oh, that people were. The one thing I did ask, and we were going to get more clarification on about, and I'll go over the points. Was shutting off comments. It looks like we're not allowed to do that as a public, the borough president said, I think it has to be on. We don't have to reply to them, but we're getting clarification on that. But their initial reaction was that the comments have to at least not be disabled. So that was the first thing. The second thing I believe was, and anyone can refresh my memory, that we kind of wanted to talk about was not naming anybody or putting anyone's name on, which I think we all agreed that we weren't going to use names. Is that correct?
Unless explicitly consented to.
Yeah, or I think if it's like an agency, if we're tagging like DOT came and did this beautiful curb for us, you know, or I mean that. But
Yeah.
I think it's people's names, like actual committee
Yeah.
members. Like we're not going to say Jessica Chait talked about this today, right? I mean, it's in the,
Yeah, so
right,
I kind of went legalistic on this one. So I
which is
did give
good.
us room for exceptions because there are certain instances where we might have to direct the public to certain resources or, services, or, in the case of like Maria's coat drive, I think I mentioned in the last
Yeah.
committee meeting that I would love for us to highlight Maria doing this every year, right? So if Maria is comfortable with it, and if consented to by the review structure, which is the co-administrators, the chair, and the CB4 office, I think definitely we could highlight good initiatives and give credit where due. But the language as I've drafted carves out some exceptions for those purposes and does delineate between tagging, for example, official governmental organizations or departments and also individual members. And for individual members, we're a bit more cautious about privacy and obtaining their consent.
I think also we are not going to tag any individual members.
And yes, to what Rachel said.
You can use you for the coat drive, Maria. Is that what you're saying?
No, but don't tag me. Yes.
We're not going
I
to
agree
tag
with
any
that.
individual. It will tag government agencies, group organizations that we work with. It's not for on individual basis, but just when we're talking about the names, sometimes, and I know other CBs do this, we don't have to, but other CBs sometimes put up a letter, right? They'll say, hey, FYI, this is our letter. We know a lot of you were interested on this particular issue. And just so you know, the co-chairs of the letter's name is on that. Obviously, it's a public letter, but it's written on the letter. We're not tagging it, but it's just part of the letter itself.
Right. So that distinction is really important, Leslie. I'm glad you pointed that out because we're talking about tagging people, right?
Yes, which we're not doing at all for
the
individual members.
Right. So the general rule as currently drafted is we will not tag board members, members of the public, or anyone's personal account, except where doing so is appropriate to provide the public with access to information services or resources, or to credit the member and that relevant person explicitly consented to being.
No, I don't think we tag it. I don't think we tag individuals at all.
Okay, so we can carve that out.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if we're doing something with Muddy Paws Rescue, for their dog, then we can tag Muddy Paw, the organization themselves, or if it's an official board business, and we're going to I don't know, Jacob Javits. I keep bringing that up for a tour. We can that's fine because that obviously generates interest. But as far as individual members, I don't think at all do we ever
blanket. Let's not do it.
Correct. I mean, I could be overruled here by the committee, but I just don't think we tag individual members at all. I just think it's a blanket rule. Not
I
to.
agree. I just did from the back of house thing and just the longevity thing. I agree with that. I think it's just better to just across the board. It's CB4. You're representing CB4. That's what you're tagged as.
Yes.
Obviously, if there's unique situations where we're congratulating a member that's been working diligently and getting a proclamation or something along those lines, or that's great. And if there's some point we all want to, you guys want to do a birthday thing where all the people that are in December has the birthday, whatever, that's I could understand that too. But I just think in general the no name thing is the way to go.
And also, Rachel put on that if anyone, and again, just to refresh everyone's memory, this is Instagram only. We're not talking about any other social media outlet. There is a DM function, a direct messaging function, and Rachel said, and we wrote this also, that you can set it up where it's an automatic response. And I think and let me know your ideas on this. If it's someone DM saying, hey, can you please help me with this? that's going to be almost impossible for the staff or the people to keep up with. So there will be an automatic response saying, if you have an issue, please contact the CB office at this number or at this email. And then if they wish to do that, then, you know, Jesse and the staff can then field those. But we shouldn't be going, by rule of thumb, back and forth on DMing.
Right.
Just for logistic purposes anyway.
And based on the comment that Jesse made the last time about us not giving the impression that we're not being responsive, right? That's not a good look for us. And also just for equity purposes, we can't just reply to some and not all. So I think as a general matter, it would be prudent for us to just have that organizational auto reply. And maybe even consider putting 311 if that might be relevant, right? But for CB4 purposes, I think it's better to direct them to a CB4 email or a phone number.
Yes, and everything else pretty much stays the same. There will be 2 co-administrators, and then it's vetted by either the chair, whoever the chair is at the time, and the office member, whoever the office member is at the time. So it goes through that process. But my feelings are, or what I anticipate is that as we get rolling on this, it's going to be kind of more easygoing than we think. You know, we'll put up a post here or there. Hey, we're going to promote this art show that we're sponsoring or something like that. Or, hey, BLP is coming up with this meeting. It's more along those lines. But those are the two additions, right, Rachel, the 2 main edits I wanted to mention, or 3 main edits I wanted to mention.
Yeah. And I actually wanted to ask you, Leslie, the feedback you got from the MVP office on the comments being disabled, is that
Yes.
based on some existing rule or just best practice suggestion? Because
Yeah.
can't each CB have their own preference, right?
So it has to do, we're under the umbrella of a public like that we kind of, we are open to the public. We are here for the public, so that we can't not have any comments. It's kind of like having a public meeting. I mean, not really, and then not taking comments. That's probably a bad analogy, but it's a little bit like that. They said that, like I said, we can revisit that and ask them. But comments we don't have to respond, but comments have to be open. And I looked at all the other CBs and their comments are open as well.
Yeah, and I think that's in line with city agencies. City
Yeah.
agencies have to allow comments, but you don't have to respond.
Then you know what? I will make an amendment to the latest amendments, Leslie, on that point, because currently we contemplate.
No, I did. I changed it, but we can, yeah.
But maybe to say, as a general rule, like we will not respond to them. Would that help? Because I think that we are kind of self-filtering the content anyways with posting just factual, informative, public-facing information. To hopefully not garner too many debates in the comment section. But should we then prescribe in the guideline that we should not respond to the comments? Would that be helpful to set out?
Sure. What do people think? I think that's safe, that, you know, we're not, I don't know if it should be an end all be all, but yes, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
Sorry, I came in a little bit late, but just for this conversation, yeah, I think just to piggyback on what some people are saying, like we do allow people to speak at meetings, but you know, for public sessions, you have to sign up in advance. There's always timers and everything. So when it comes to commenting on public things that we might be putting out, we do want engagement. That's kind of the point of having more presence, but it can't be a free for all. So there has to be some regulations around it, you know, and if they are allowed to comment on anything, then maybe it's just a blanket statement like somebody else had alluded to, in terms of just like, thank you for commenting on this issue. If you want a direct response, please reach out to this or this email and we'll work our way to getting back to you as fast as possible.
Yeah, I think that's what Brendan's right for the DMs. I think that's what we can do. But if anyone is familiar with Instagram, people comment all the time without the poster responding. You know, it's just the comments just roll down and you don't necessarily have to say thank you to every comment or right on or whatever, you know, we just kind of let it go.
And maybe just to get ahead of it, like if we do have to address this, we can say with like anything that we post, like this is a public comment. This is what we're saying as a community board for, but comments are limited. And we will try to get back to individual messages to everybody as best as possible. That way it's like a public notation that we are engaging with the community, but not, if you don't see us comment on everything, then that's the reason why.
I wouldn't
I think-
even
Go ahead.
leave the door open for potential responses. I don't think people should feel that we will respond to comments because that can get really crazy. I think having, an auto message in the DMs, if someone cares that much, they'll send a message if they want a response instead of a comment. And having something that says explicitly at the top, this account is not actively monitored, for immediate assistance, contact, and I think having 311 if it's, something, or here's the board office. But I think if you get into noting like, oh, we'll try, it sets up an expectation. And I think there also should be a plan for if there are comments that use foul language or are personal attacks on people, whether or not those comments would be hidden or removed, because you have to deal with that. And this is just something that I deal with in managing the social media for West 42nd Street. There are times where there are comments that we have to hide or move because they're very inappropriate.
That makes sense. I think we just do the automatic response for the DMs. Because if someone has a specific issue, they might say, hey, oh, I saw this, like the scaffolding collapse, then it's an automatic response saying, please contact Jesse Bodine or whoever, at the office at this email.
Yep. No, I agree with that. And I also just think in our bio page, like when you click on Manhattan Community Board 4, we can say, if you do reach out to us, you will get an auto message or you will get a response saying to reach out to this. So don't expect us to have a public comment back.
I wouldn't say don't expect us to have a public comment back. And I wouldn't say that we will respond as soon as we can. I don't think you should have direct messages that say, make your messages, but we're not listening. So you have to be careful with the way you word the if
Yeah,
you want,
I think
it was fine to say, if you want a response, call this number.
Yeah, and I think what Katie said is right. I think really the only danger zone here is if people use inappropriate language or people, say something, and those are the ones you remove, right? And that's just, I think,
You just
logical
do it if
reasoning.
you see it. Just remove it. You don't have to
Yeah.
tell them to do it.
Yeah. Which, from what I see from what I hear from the other CBs, that's not necessarily a problem or a constant problem. I mean, it might be in our district, but I don't foresee that. Anyone else? No? Okay.
So what I'm hearing in the direct messages will have an automated standard response that says, thank you for reaching out. This account is not actively monitored.
I wouldn't say not
contact our
actively
office."
monitored. I wouldn't say that. I would just say thank you for reaching out. We will get back, because if you say it's not, it sounds like we're not engaged. It sounds like we're not looking at our own. I would just say thank you for reaching out. If you have anything, reach
Please
out.
contact our office directly for
Yeah.
assistance at blah. That's
Correct.
what we had, but I thought I heard we want to just make sure that expectations are set in a way that we are not actively monitoring. And we will.
Sorry, Rachel. The actively monitoring language is really used across the board with a lot of large companies on their social media. And it's not something that comes across like, oh, we're ignoring you. It's the bandwidth. And I think in the bio, we don't have to point to, oh, hey, heads up. We don't
You're
say
talking
that.
about in the direct message back, the response.
Direct message back response should say, thank you for reaching out to Manhattan Community Board 4. This account is not actively monitored. If you have a question or concern, please reach out to blah, 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 blah. That is something that happens with a lot of companies and other organizations that don't have the bandwidth to actively monitor a social media account. And I think in the bio, the main thing to put in the bio is that Manhattan Community Board 4 is made up of community volunteers, blah, blah, blah. So it's known. There shouldn't be an expectation that we're beholden to the public to respond in this forum. I think that's for the public meetings. This is more of a platform for the board to share what it's doing and share, stuff, not necessarily to engage one-on-one with individuals on the internet. It's to share our stuff and have it out there.
I agree with everything you said, except the actively monitored part. I must be getting old because actively monitored feels to me like we're not listening.
Okay.
If I could jump in, I think you could just say, we don't respond to messages directly. If you have a concern, please contact the MCB4 office at email address, phone number. That way it's like
Excellent.
we are directing them to the right place, but we are setting the clear expectation that you're not getting a response here.
Perfect. Is that okay with everyone? That language? It takes the Google person to let us, to tell us this. Thank you, Wendy. Anything else on that? Again, I will
You need a
trip.
vote.
Yeah, no, I know. I will
Okay.
triple clarify on the comments, but I like Katie said, a city agency, we have to keep it open. And that's what the BP's office said, but let's, like I said. So if we can have a vote on this, for the new set of guidelines with those edits and modifications, and a big thank you to Rachel for the edit and Alice for setting the first round up. All in favor? Okay, hands down. All opposed? Abstentions? Present not eligible? Great, thank you guys. Okay, the chair report, that's me. I'm gonna keep it brief, so Jesse can go and get these letters out. Just two reports, 2 points I'll report on. One was Gateway. We had a briefing that Christine and I attended. And it was really kind of explaining to us the stop go of the federal administration fighting with the locals here. So from what I understand, Wednesday morning, the federal administration released the remainder of the funding that it had withheld since last fall. As you know, the beginning of February, work stopped on Gateway. It stopped, well, earlier, the funding was held back way earlier, but Gateway had a line of credit that sustained construction, but they exhausted that, so then they went to a lawsuit. And now every dollar that, from what I understand, that was legally withheld has been released. So just so you know, Gateway is now back on track, or at least back up and running. That doesn't mean that that's excluded from any stoppages in the future, as we all know, but just FYI on that. And I also want to report on, sadly, the hiring group for Jesse's replacement is going to be myself, Dolores, Christine, Rachel, and Josephine. And we will get going on that. I think Jesse brought up, and I don't know, Jesse, if you want to talk about this, we're not posting it yet, and Jesse was explaining to me how timing is everything, because Jesse will be here through May. So we are going to wait a little bit, right? And then post Jesse, and then kind of have that timeline set out.
Yeah, I sort of worked this out with Leslie and Christine, that we'll wait till the end of March to really to post, and you guys can, the group can meet to prepare and all of that in advance, but there's no point posting now and then waiting and then finding the top 10 people we wanted already moved on to other positions. So, or so we'll wait a little bit longer.
Okay. Any questions on either of those 2 points?
The saddest job we've done on CB4 ever.
And then so I guess going off that, Jesse, it's your district office report.
Yeah, so the full board agenda and the committee schedule for March are both in the Dropbox. Please take a look at them. I was away last week, so I'm catching up as well. Please let me know, and let our Nellie or Janine know if there's a mistake in there somewhere. Please take a look at the other committee agendas, so you're aware of the committee. look what the other committees are doing. For the month of March, there's no changes to committee schedule. Hallelujah. So that's good. And I sent out an email before I left to the full board, reiterating and re-explaining the our hybrid meeting policy, the state's open meeting law. I hope everybody read it here. If you guys have questions about it, I'm happy to answer them right now. I'm going to offer that briefly at full board because what we have seen when we haven't had this issue for ever since this has really started, with rare exceptions, but we're running into an issue of having multiple committees not have quorum in like a single month. And so it just, you know, we, as we already explained earlier tonight, we kind of have a workaround, but as Marty clarified, if we are brought to task on that, we could get ourselves into some issues there. So we really need to be clear to our committee members, and you guys need to be clear about what is the rules, because you guys need to have quorum to call to order, to hold a vote, especially if the members of the public are there. So I just want to take a moment. If there are questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. But if we're all clear on this, then we just need to kind of re-up to our members at the next meeting you guys have with your committee, that they really do need to make sure that they're there in person. That our hybrid policy expects all members to be there in person. That's based off of what the open meetings law demands.
Thank you, Jesse. We do have one item of new business, and it's an HHHS letter to the administration regarding NYCHA FEC project. Joe, right? Which was, where's Joe? I don't see him.
Joe's gone.
Joe's gone?
His connection is unstable, so he had to bounce.
Okay, so Maria presenting this?
Maria's walking in the door right here.
I'm sorry, my cat just broke some last thing off the corner. Yes. Are we talking about the letter?
Yeah, we just, not yet. We're waiting for you.
Okay. Now, if I could have had myself organized, that would have been helpful. Essentially, the letter, I don't have it up yet. I'm trying to find it again. But essentially, the letter was about the meeting that was held in February. We didn't know about the meeting until a few hours before. I was able to attend. It was for Fulton 11 tenants. Essentially, what we're asking for is the mayor's office to be involved in, because CB4 has had such a pivotal and important role in this project, including in the working group, including having the town hall meeting we had. I forgot what else the letter mentions. And does someone have it up yet? I'm still looking for it. Someone from housing?
I can put it up. Jesse, do you have it?
If you
want
have
me to pull it up?
you should do it. I'm working on other ones.
Oh yeah, let Jesse. Rachel, do you have it to pull it up?
The housing committee letter to Mamdani, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it here. Hold on.
Moving slow.
Thank you.
And specifically, what I would want to highlight in the letter is, I don't see it on the screen yet, but
It's just going to take it before it just took a second.
is the three main things we're asking for.
Are you all seeing my screen?
Yes, we're seeing it now.
Yeah. And
Which
it
part
is
do you want me to
towards-
scroll to?
It's towards the end, the three main things that we're asking for, which we need to make an edit to that and move it up. Nope, it's towards the end instead of at the beginning where it would normally be.
I just see this one. Am I looking at the right letter?
Yes.
Okay.
But essentially, that's the title. It's in the title that we're essentially asking for collaboration with the new administration. I wanted to mention the 3 main points in the letter. Does anyone have?
I apologize for interrupting, Maria. Rachel, I think there's a separate distinct letter in the Dropbox that's different verbiage than what you're showing.
Yeah, I was thinking this isn't the
This
one.
looks.
The very first
Jesse, do we have the correct letter? So we can,
We were sent the letter from Joe's office. I believe it's the correct letter.
Rachel, if you click on the clue letter, it says 00.
I have.
Actually,
Oh, you're right.
And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's 3 specific asks.
Yep, if it'll load, just 1 second.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, Maria.
No, thank you.
Maria, you can keep talking. I'll get there in a second.
Does anyone have any questions?
Wait.
well, we didn't see.
It's not a clue letter.
No, this is the wrong letter. It's
No,
not a
it's
letter.
not
There's no
clue,
three.
guys. It's not a clue letter.
There's just
This was.
three.
I'm gonna
There's
get-
just
I'm gonna
no
get it.
3
I'll
asks.
get
I'm
it.
sorry,
Give me a minute.
everyone is talking at the same time.
Stop. Sorry, stop. This was a letter, not from Clue, Kevin. This is not a Clue letter. This was sent to us this afternoon, from Joe's office as an HHHS letter.
Is it even in the Dropbox at all?
Ellie sent it to us separately.
Yeah, she sent
So
it separately. This is not a Dropbox letter. It was sent at about 2:20 today.
Thanks.
I got it. Here it is. It's coming.
I saw it in the Dropbox.
I wanted it to be in the Dropbox. I'm not sure why I was.
I think I have it. This is from Nellie's email. Wow, so slow.
I don't know why I'm not finding it, but I saw it in the Dropbox.
It's supposed to be in the Dropbox. I mean,
Yeah, but essentially it's asking for collaboration.
Who's going to object to that?
It's the same version that's in the Dropbox.
Yeah, this is the same
letter.
this is the same letter we saw, right?
Yeah.
And in the Dropbox, it says it was added 5 hours ago.
Yes,
Yeah,
this is the right one. This is it. This is the right one that was original. Yes. Rachel, you were right.
Here it is. Here it is. I finally found it. Well, then perhaps I'm making a mistake. I guess I did make a mistake.
No, I think you're right, Maria. It does ask for collaboration, but you mentioned 3 different asks, right? So what are the...
I could be mixing up. It's possible that I was looking at a different letter from tonight that has 3 different asks, and maybe my mind is a little discombobulated right now.
So this was, just so everyone's aware, this was a meeting that was January 29th, and it took place in Hudson Guild.
Oh,
and
more background information. Yes, I can provide more background. So yes, I was made aware of a meeting on January 29th that was being held that day for tenants in Fulton 11. I showed up at the meeting. There was about approximately 8 tenants. The rest were folks who work with HUD, NYCHA, a deputy mayor, and essentially the letter again is asking that MCB4 have involvement in the process and that the administration be involved and is advocating for MCB4 to be involved in the process. Does anyone have any questions, or is there anything else you want to add, Leslie?
Well,
I mean, there's a couple things, but go on. And someone else has.
No, I'm just wondering, why is this? I mean, isn't this? Can this go to full board?
Yes.
Yes, why is this?
That's my question. Well, that was my first question. My second point is that we have, no matter what, we need to reword the introductory paragraph because it mentions, again, a meeting, we just talked about this, that really didn't happen. It references your most recent housing committee meeting. Right?
Yeah, but what are you saying,
And
Jesse?
you didn't have quorum.
No quorum.
I thought we did.
No,
We did not?
You did not. So this was I think we're running into a little confusion here. And again, I defer to you, Maria. If the point of this letter needs to go out before full board, that's why it should be on exec. Before, this was going to full board as new business because you didn't have quorum. So this was going to get voted on at full board. If there is, but if there is a time constraint,
Like Paul said, if there's a deadline that we have to make,
Yeah.
but
So
there's not here. This is just a request because of that we were, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, not seen as a stakeholder in this meeting, so we weren't invited to this meeting, and just because of, your ingenuity at the time, and, you ran down there just to kind of see what was going on, and we're commenting on that, but I think other than that, I mean, also, I think we have to just have time for the public to see the letter, and, and the public to comment on it, and also board members as well. So I don't know unless there is an urgency that we're not aware of.
I mean, from today to next Wednesday that I'm aware of, no. However, there are things that are happening within this project that I'm not aware of and that we as a community board aren't aware of and are finding out after the fact or very late or with very limited time to respond. So, honestly, I'm not clear. I think I would prefer today, but if you think and you all agree that this could wait until Wednesday, then yes. But again, that's my only concern around the project, that what I just shared.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just need to be consistent. We just had the same conversation about this previous WPE letter, and so I just think we need to be consistent. This was always going to be on the full board agenda, so it was it's still going to go out. It'll go out once we have once that's voted out. So unless there's a deadline here that we are working around, but we're not. So I'm just wary of.
You're saying all these new business letters will be in the Dropbox so people can read them before the new business comes up.
Yes.
For full board, yeah.
I think there's a little confusion with quorum, no quorum, and then where it go. If there is no quorum at a committee meeting, you can still do quote unquote business or discussion and have a letter if you see fit. It just can't be officially voted out. So it has to go to full board to be voted out and discussed and voted out. The only reason why sometimes like the BLP just brought up a letter is because if there's a very, very there's a deadline of tomorrow or like tonight for Jesse's 2 letters, then that's different. Then it goes to exec and then it can be.
I'm sorry, Leslie.
Ratified.
Can we just remove the letter?
Sorry, Maria?
Can we just remove the letter from the screen so I can see?
Sure, Rachel, can you?
Thank you.
Thank you
for putting it up.
Does that make sense, everybody? Okay.
I might need to hear that again at another time, Leslie, but I agree that if you all want to wait till full board, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Because it is 8:36, so I'm willing to say yes.
I appreciate it.
Right, so if this is going to full board regardless, right, whether as a new business to be voted on by full board versus we voted tonight and then it becomes ratified or something like that in full board, right? That's the difference, Leslie?
Well, the difference is that I'm sorry to jump in, Leslie.
Go ahead.
Ratified would mean that it went out already.
Right, if there's urgency, yeah.
Right, there's an urgency, and that should only be done if there is that emergency, right? People don't like
Right.
voting letters that they had no say on. Then they went out 2 weeks ago, and so we do that in rare occasions because of deadlines, such as BLP sometimes has an outdoor dining deadline that we can't work around. We've got to get it out. TPC has that on occasion as well.
Right.
U.L.U.R.P might have that because of that kind of situation. We really try not to do that. So that is the difference. But the ratified meaning that, if you were going to go ahead and change the letter at full board, we would have to then be sending a new letter saying, remember that letter we sent you 3 days ago? That's meaningless. Here's the new version.
Right.
And so we also don't want to get into that. So I appreciate Maria's willingness right now, and I think we can certainly have an offline conversation about it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, we've done this before where it's been new business at full board, like when there's
Yeah.
no quorum, so it's not a.
And Maria and Joe can explain the timing of it, right? So
Yeah, for sure.
motion to do that and change the first paragraph
I
to reflect that it
apologize
wasn't
about-
a committee meeting.
Well, what we're gonna move on because it's not gonna be a business here. I think it will be at full board and discuss there. Is that okay, Maria?
Yes, it's fine. I apologize about the confusion. It was the LPC letter that I had in my mind with the 3 bullet points in the bottom. Apologies.
Let's not get to another letter. We'll stick to the one.
One thing at a time. Right?
One thing at a time. Okay, I believe we have one more piece of new business, if I'm not mistaken, Josephine.
Yes, I'll make this very quickly. So in March, we had the Entertainment Community Fund visit ACES, and they wanted to get our support in local law 1470, which is better known as the artist housing legislation. And this is basically that legislation that would amend the administrative code to say that preference given to artists and housing would not violate the human rights law. So the reason that we're bringing it here is because it is a housing bill, right? And ACES is not housing. So the question is this something that should be taken up at HHHS, or is it something that we can discuss here? The other point to add is that this legislation was co-sponsored by Keith Powers and Eric Botcher, both who are in other positions now. So one of the reasons that we really wanted to support is that we want to keep it alive. We don't want it to just disappear. So with that, we could use your direction on that.
I would think, and I know, Maria, you're here and you can talk to Joe, but Josephine, are you looking for maybe some guidance from HHHS since it is a housing and do a joint letter?
Right. If this is something that they want to do or are interested in doing, yes.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely talk offline about that, but Maria, I can't see why you would not want to put that on the agenda, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
that's fine. Thanks.
Thanks. Anyone else for new business? No? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Great. All in favor? Yes, aye, bye. Great. Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Did I just do
Thank you
that by
very much.
myself? Sorry. All right. Bye, guys. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Leslie.